So I just want to tell everybody about the program. And of course, Farshid is going to lead us in the prayers. And Bob is going to do the Gujarati Arti. Sally's going to read a couple of one's a message or an email from Diana, why they couldn't be Skyped tonight. And then a short message of Mayor Baba. And we have Bombay Ravi with us, who's going to sing a song accompanied by Cliff. And then Farshid is going to tell us his adventures. And then closing will be Ravi again.
It's not from Bombay?
No, that's the same Ravi. Ravi Bombay twice. So if everybody comes forward, as soon as I see that, Farshid will come forward and help us do the prayers.
I'm here.
Baba ki jai. Avatar Mayor Baba ki jai. Avatar Mayor Baba ki jai. The preserver and protector of all. You are without beginning and without end, non-dual, beyond comparison, and none can measure you. You are without color, without expression, without form, and without attributes. You are unlimited and unfathomable, beyond imagination and conception, eternal and imperishable. You are indivisible, and none can see you but with eyes divine. You always were, you always are, and you always will be. You are everywhere, you are in everything, and you are also beyond everywhere and beyond everything. You are in the firmament and in the depths. You are manifest and unmanifest, on all planes and beyond all planes. You are in the three worlds and also beyond the three worlds. You are imperceptible and independent. You are the Creator, the Lord of Lords, the knower of all minds and hearts. You are omnipotent and omnipresent. You are knowledge infinite, power infinite, and bliss infinite. You are the ocean of knowledge, all-knowing, infinitely knowing, the knower of the past, the present, and the future, and you are knowledge itself. You are all-merciful and eternally benevolent. You are the soul of souls, the one with infinite attributes. You are the Trinity of truth, knowledge, and bliss. You are the source of truth, the ocean of love. You are the Ancient One, the highest of the high. You are Prabhu and Parameshwar. You are the Beyond God and the Beyond Beyond God also. You are Parabrahma, Allah, Elahi, Yazdan, Ahura Mazda, and God the Beloved. You are named Izad, the only one worthy of worship. O God, most merciful for all our sins, for every thought that was false or unjust or unclean, for every word spoken that ought not to have been spoken, for every deed done that ought not to have been done. We repent for every deed and word and thought inspired by selfishness, and for every deed and word and thought inspired by hatred. We repent most especially for every lustful thought and every lustful action, for every lie, for all hypocrisy, for every promise given but not fulfilled, and for all slander and backbiting. Most especially also, we repent for every action that has brought ruin to others, for every word and has given others pain, and for every wish that pain should befall others. In your unbounded mercy, we ask you to forgive us, O God, for all these sins committed by us, and to forgive us for our constant failures to think and speak and act according to your will and wish. Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more, and more and more, and still yet more, till we become worthy of union with you, and help us all to hold fast to Baba's Dhamma until the very end. Avatar Mere Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Mere Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Mere Baba Ki Jai.
Bujave Narachalatani Ekarakuda Radhe Paramatu Chelaki Ashabhaktone Kevanoshe Nurei Matu Ayamur Shamera Baba Charanapara Tushnadari Esa Udana Zatlati Bake Ataibe Tome Herabatu Duchema Vikaki Katano Tuashe Vine Arefi Tuchedari Yate Kane Kantamari Fatano Ovi Tu Fatu Amore Rate Aizale Pakashe Yana Izalanu Chetukara Mantamagyani Chemur Yarenirapatu Kudana Premano Pyalo Pilavi Mastamaneka Chetudrana Sadake Sakia Dine Payamatu Amari Navabaradari Ekarame Ohane Darie Amara Nakuda Emeir Baba Chegibatu Amara Nakuda Emeir Baba Chegibatu Ujave Narjanatani Karakura Ratne Paramatu Chelagi Ashabhaktone Kevakshe Nurei Matu Avatar Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Baba Ki Jai.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody knows I sent out a letter, and if you didn't get the letter, you need to give me your email address. And Diana and Bill wrote back. And this photograph was taken in our front yard when we had a horse, and they were visiting. So this is Diana and Bill with Brandy. Okay, you're ruining it. And so this was the letter from Diana and Bill. She said, I'm not sure we can make it this month. That lunar eclipse is making it pretty heavy going for Billy Boy. But maybe next month will be easier. I sure hope so. But we're sending our love to all our Serenity pals and the wonderful Circle Center workers too. Thank God we are all his. J. Baba, Bill, Diana. Okay, I think you're fired. All right, so David, I guess everybody got this, and so David wanted me to read it. God is indivisible one, and is indivisibly in each one and everything. What is it then that causes apparent divisions? There are no divisions as such, but there is an appearance of separateness because of ignorance. This means that everything is of ignorance, and that everyone is ignorance personified. A drop in an ocean is not separate from the ocean. It is a bubble over the drop that gives it an appearance of separateness. But when the bubble bursts, the drop is not, and the indivisible ocean is. When the bubble of ignorance bursts, the self realizes its oneness with the indivisible self. Avatar Mayor Baba. J. Baba.
I just wanted to say that there's a fellow up north named John Meyer, and he sends this out once a month to, I guess, anybody that subscribes to him, and he sends these Baba messages. And that this is from him.
For this month.
For this month.
Yeah.
Ravi, show your ignorance.
Jai Meher Baba.
J. Baba.
This is Kabir's poem. He talks about the individual soul lives in this fortress filled with emptiness, and he also goes on saying this has 10 openings, and the yogi always keeps vigil of those 10 doors to this fortress. Shunyagad Shahar, Shunyagad Shahar, Shahar Ghar Basti, Shunyagad Shahar, Shahar Ghar Basti, Basti. Shunyagad Shahar, Shahar Ghar Basti, Shunyagad Shahar. इस नगरी के 10 दरवाजे, इस नगरी के 10 दरवाजे, जोगी पहरा नित देता है, जोगी पहरा नित देता है, नित देता है। शून्यगढ़ शहर, शून्यगढ़ शहर, शहर घर बस्ती, बस्ती। लाल हमरे हम लालन के, लाल हमरे हम लालन के, तन सोत ब्रह्म जागे हैं। शून्यगढ़ गढ़ शहर शून्य गढ़ शहर शहर घर बस्ती बस्ती जल बिच कमल कमल जल बिच कमल कमल बिच कलियां कलियां जल बिच कमल कमल बिच कलियां भंवर वासना लेता है शून्य गढ़ शहर शून्य गढ़ शहर शहर घर बस्ती बस्ती जय मेहरबान
Before Farshid talks, I would just like to say that I got an invitation, and some other people have, to come to Australia for Diana's 80th birthday, May 7th. And we wrote back that we'd be very happy to come there, and we were going to book on the Mayor Baba Astral Travel Agency 2 tickets.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Diana. Jai Baba. Farshid.
That's the sound I like that. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
You know, David said to talk about the journey, which actually is good because we all have a journey. You know, the infinite God made himself in every one of us to make this journey, which is in dream, back to him. So the journey is his journey, basically, back to him. I kind of was thinking about talking about suffering today and its relation to love. You know, why an individual soul has to suffer. You know, the avatar suffers for the whole universe. And we know why, because of basically taking the burden of all the suffering and unnatural sanskaras that the individual souls have created for themselves. It's like a spider web that we have basically woven around ourselves and entangled in it, and we can't move forward. Now the avatar comes, that's his duty each time. He takes infinite suffering through taking a human body and going through crucifixion. And Baba said that he is crucified every moment of his life. And actually he said the avatar, when he comes, is crucified every moment of their life, which he is. He comes again and again to take this burden of humanity away and open the path and the channel towards himself. So that is the suffering, universal suffering of the avatar, which suffers not only for every individual circle members, but also for all his lovers and for the whole universe as a whole. But for the perfect masters, they put a show up. I mean, they suffer, but not as the avatar suffers. They put a show up, they might suffer for some of their close members to bring them closer to God, but they usually don't suffer as the avatar does. Now, for every individual soul, we go through suffering knowingly or unknowingly. Some people suffer unknowingly, and it's suffering in vain, basically. It's worth nothing. They have to come again and again, until they realize what the true being behind this gross body is, and then, eventually, if they are fortunate enough to get closer to the reality, which is God Himself. Now, Baba said, I suffer because I love. And it is through His love for us that He suffers, for humanity, for the whole creation that He suffers. But then also He said, I led my circle members also to suffer, means the Mandalis. They also suffered. If you look at their life, not only they suffered during the life of the avatar, they suffered at the end of their life. They each have ailments, and they they lived a happy life, but suffered through that happiness. Now, Baba also says, the God who is infinite power, bliss, and knowledge, for one to realize God, one has to gain that what he deserves. Basically, if you want God, which is infinite knowledge, infinite power, infinite bliss, one has infinitely eventually to suffer for that, basically, or go through the burden of getting to Him. And as we go back and study maybe the life of the perfect masters or those who were closer to Baba, we realized that they did suffer. Even Hafiz has a couplet. There is a good translator of Hafiz. The couplet says, با دلی خندان با دلی خونین لبی خندان بیاور همچو جام نگرد وقت میرسد آیی چو چنگ اندر خروش. What that Hafiz says that with a heart full of blood, bleeding heart, which means through suffering, through suffering. But his suffering is different. I mean, his suffering was to realize God. So that suffering is worth suffer. And Baba said, gaining that infinite power, knowledge, and bliss of God, one has to go through that suffering, and at the end realizes that suffering was nothing compared to what he gained. So if you go through that suffering, don't worry. But Hafiz's couplet, going back to Hafiz's couplet, is that with a bleeding heart, bring a smile like a cup of wine. Means, like a blooming rose. No, not that every poke they give you, you jump and cry out or complain. So he says, and Baba, in his words sometimes says, if you come close to me, if you come to realm of my love, then seal your mouth of complaining, basically. So do not complain. What does that mean? Based on everyone's sanskara in the past lives, this life, we have to go through some suffering of purification. The suffering is needed for purification. And even Baba sometimes says the suffering is a cure for more suffering. So accept it, willingly accept it. Now, that doesn't mean, Baba doesn't say, go and bring the burden of suffering upon yourself. But if it comes, then accept it, accept it and have be receptive to that suffering. I brought some notes also on this issue of suffering, which it would be nice to.
Farshid John, while you're looking for your notes, Hafiz also said a beautiful line that had an effect on me. He says, those who cannot withstand the suffering for God will fall out of the circle of the path to Him.
Yeah.
It just...
What's the Persian of that?
نمیدونم.
Oh, Reza?
حفظ نمی‌کنم.
Let me read you a little bit of a story of Gandhi, Gandhi. You know Gandhi, everybody knows Gandhi. Baba said, Gandhi will suffer terribly in the next life for his present political activities and social movements, including the picketing of liquor shops, as all these activities have caused so many people to suffer. So that's why Baba says, make others happy, even at the cost of your own happiness. Why? Because of this issue. Because if you cause suffering to someone, even unintentionally, that's going to bring you back to suffer. ای کشته کرا کشتی تا کشته شوی باز. There are some couplets on that. It says, oh, you who killed that person, then you will come back again to be killed by someone else. So the sanskara has to get balanced. And for this sanskara is the main reason why people go through suffering. And Baba also, now let me finish with Gandhi and then we can go through some more of the reason for suffering and the result of the suffering. So the sanskara of those who follow him now and who suffered doing so will be the cause of Gandhi's suffering in the next birth. But Gandhi is doing all this with the best of intentions and therefore will be God realized in the third life after this. So isn't that nice?
Yes.
Now here, this is a nice one. Baba said 99% of human suffering is not necessary. 99% of human suffering is not necessary. Through obstinate ignorance, people inflict suffering upon themselves and their fellow men. And then, strangely enough, they ask, why should we suffer? Suffering is generally symbolized by scenes of war, devastated houses, broken and bleeding limbs, the agonies of torture and death. But war does not embody any special suffering. People really suffer at all times. They suffer because they are not satisfied. So not being satisfied also brings suffering. That's why Baba said, don't worry, be happy. I mean, this is a small thing. Don't worry, be happy. Really. I mean, let's make our motto, don't worry, be happy. And try to practice that. What Baba says is not just words. We have to practice it. We have to become that. So if we do that, then, then this 99% of the suffering will go away, actually. So people inflict suffering upon themselves and their fellow men, and then strangely enough, they ask, why should they suffer? Suffering is generally symbolized by war, that we said, and then people really suffer at all times. They suffer because they are not satisfied. They want more and more. War is more an outcome of universal suffering, of dissatisfaction, than an embodiment of representative suffering. Through his greed, vanity and cruelty, man brings untold suffering upon himself and others. So this is for, I mean, I don't want to enter politics, but this is for Mr. What do you call him? The guy who is involved with Ukraine. Anyway, that's for him, I think. Because, you know, he brings suffering upon himself and so many others. And he has to come for lifetimes to answer to these things that he has done.
What about Putin?
Putin, yeah, Putin. Yeah. So that's the, you know, the misery that man brings to his own and also to others.
The other guy supporting.
Now this is also interesting. In 1956 in Myrtle Beach, Ivy Deuce asked Baba, why should misery perpetually exist on earth in spite of God's infinite love and mercy? Baba dictated, the source of eternal bliss is the self in all. The cause of perpetual misery is the selfishness of all. As long as satisfaction is derived through selfish pursuits, misery will always exist. Only because of the infinite love and mercy of God can man learn to realize through the lessons of misery on earth that inherent in him is the source of infinite bliss and that all suffering is his labor of love to unveil his own infinite self. Now, let's stop for a minute and think about this, you know. Like a river, you know, which is a creek and hits to this side of the bank and to this side of the bank and, you know, slowly finds its path through the ocean, the soul also will go through suffering like a creek, basically going towards the ocean. Falls on this side, thus, you know, unintentionally goes through suffering by wanting more. Because Baba said 99% of suffering is self-created, is not necessary. But the man, because they want, they go through the suffering. So through this side and through that side, eventually we'll find a way and eventually we'll realize by a grace of a master. Because by themselves, an ignorant person is always ignorant. They need a teacher to say, hey, what you're reading is ignorance. You know, pay your attention to this. This is the truth. So a good teacher can bring the soul after lifetimes to realize what the truth is and guide them towards the truth. And how fortunate we all are who have the avatar, the source of the truth, with us. Oh, really? I mean, this is unimaginable. It's a mind-blowing. I mean, when you think of it, gosh, how lucky we are. Have the avatar, you know, be in contact with the avatar, know of the avatar. Oh my God. And then compare yourself to 18,000 other planets.
Oh.
Who have human life on them, and they don't know anything about God. And it takes ages for them to take life on earth before they realize what they are. Now this is a story of Jamshed. Now, Jamshed was in Jamshed Mehta, the mayor of Karachi, told Baba he found himself surrounded by difficulties with no immediate solution. And Baba told him, this is not bad news. This is very good news, Baba says. You are lucky to have so many hardships. The fact is that there are no hardships because everything in the world is a one big zero. I see and experience this every moment. Once tested by the avatar or Sadguru, the devotee will feel as if he is about to die. It is terrible. This path of God is the hardest and most instrumentable thing possible. Still don't worry and don't lose hope. Good times are ahead, and after these difficulties, quietude and comfort await you. Terrible suffering is a sign of happiness and peace to come. Great heat denotes the coming of rain. Great suffering and intense sorrow indicate the happiness is about to dawn. Anything beyond your capacity will necessarily change your capacity, because so long as everything is within your limits, you don't know what is beyond them. And everything concerning God and God's realization is beyond limit. So in this way, great suffering and being plagued with terrible problems are beneficial. People pray to me to solve their difficulties, saying that they love me. But there is a vast difference between love and prayer. In Persian, the expression to pray means to beg, to want, to desire something, even the blessing of God. But when a person really loves, he gives himself over to his beloved completely. This is true love. In that there is no begging, no wanting, and no room for desires. Only the longing to unite with the beloved remains. Love means the renunciation of the self. Prayer means selfishness, no matter how high the prayer may be. So there is a vast difference between when one prays and when one loves. So try not to be a prayer, but be a lover. So with that said, let's jump into a little bit about love. Now that we know the result of suffering is good, then we should not complain really. Every one of us at some point goes through some suffering, either mentally, physically, or even spiritually. So we shouldn't be disheartened. We should know that Baba wants us to go through this so we can have more capacity within us to love. If Farshid probably knows, and many of you been through the classes of creation and its causes, that the book just came out not too long ago, and Ward Park had a lot of sessions, and there is a bunch of beautiful videos on readings and discussions on those. If those who missed the class, they can go to YouTube and just type in creation and its causes, and the whole thing comes up, and you can watch them, which I would recommend. The reason being, Baba had kids in the Paramashram or the Meher Ashram in the beginning between, 7, 8 years, all the way to 17, 18 years old. And for a reason, and a good reason, Baba started telling them about the creation, why the creation came into existence, who created this creation, and the purpose behind all these, planets that we see with naked eye maybe, and what are these planets, what is the moon, what is the sun, what is the Poco? Means, nothingness. So to me, each time I read those, I think Baba, because they all came from different religion, different background, from different nationalities, a bunch of them from Iran, some from India, a couple of them from England, I guess. So there were, a good mixture, Christian, Muslim, Zoroastrian, maybe Buddhism even, I'm not sure, but a lot of different nationalities and and religion. And for Baba to bring them united together, bring the kids united together and basically point them towards God, it was necessary to bring them to a senseless, vacant atmosphere. Now, what was this senseless, vacant atmosphere? I mean, if you start, practicing Quran or, Avesta or, other religious books and pray to God in your own religion and not knowing anything, then you think, oh my God, my religion is better than his, or his religion is better than mine, or, you have this differentiation between yourself. But Baba brought them to the source of everything. He said, hey, we are really nothing. I mean, the whole human body is nothing compared to the whole creation. Baba brought the creation in front of their eyes and said the whole creation is nothing. It's a big zero. It all came from a whim of God himself. And that whole whim caused all these planets that you think is so great or so big, or now they want to go to the moon or, to the other planets, yeah. Baba said it's all nothing. But he said, create love, and I will show you the source of the truth. So he brought them to this point that they put the religion behind. Because he said, religion, if you want to enter the path, you have to forget about the alleys. You want to go into the freeway, you don't want to go through the, crowded streets. The crowded streets are the religious practices. If you want to be in the highway to heaven, to Baba, then you better be ready for that. And the highway to heaven is what I'm telling you, what Baba told them, that the whole creation is nothing. It's zero onto zero. And you focus on the love for me. And you love me and I'll show you God. And that's how Baba focused them in one pointedness of, realizing God and knowing God. And he, at the end of every one of these lessons, if you realize, Baba said, now forget about this, You don't have to really bother your mind about this. But try to love me. Try to create love. And the more you create this love within you, the more he gives you. And we just read that prayer, Baba even doesn't pay attention to prayer. Although Baba says the prayer that God hears is the prayer of the heart. So keep me close with you, I'm always there. What does that mean? I mean, if you pray, but pray with your heart, and you have focus on Baba, that prayer is answered. Because not only you are praying, you are also loving through that focal point that you have with Baba. That prayer has value. Otherwise, prayer has no value. It's just mere words. So, that also Baba told us. Now, so bringing, the kids to this point of, okay, the religion is nothing, it's just for religious people and doesn't take you anywhere, brings you maybe to threshold of God, and that's about it. And from here on, the love is the one who takes you towards God. And then he asked them to create this love. And then when you go and read the sobs and throbs of those kids who were crying of love, it was because of so much overwhelming. I mean, the presence of God himself in human form is so overwhelming to me. And many, many who met him, who told us those stories, that I think man will go mad about God. And then Baba, encouraging them to create love and being there with the kids, and also telling them about the, muteness or, not giving any importance to religious ceremonies and rituals and, the shariat, and puts them on tariqat, means, the path to God. It really helped the kids to get to that point. And some of these kids were put right on the path. Even some of them, from what I heard, from Shahryar Meravanpur, who was one of the Paramashram boy keepers, and he was, my aunt's husband. He was saying that Baba gave God revelation to a few of those kids right there and then, and one of them passed in Baba's arms. Just dropped his body. I have the names. I'll bring the names next time. Remind me. And then some of them were on the third, fourth. Fourth Baba won't keep them too long, but fifth and sixth plane, like Chota Baba, like Esfandiar, put them on the path. And how lucky they were. And how lucky we are. It's just the mind stops when you think of how lucky we are really. Yeah, the question. No. We can go on this subject of, suffering and love. But, one story reminds me that relates to this suffering of love, suffering and love, is the story of my two uncles, Esfandiar also, Shahryar. The love, if one has love, the suffering really doesn't mean for that person. The suffering is there. It's like Baba said, I come, I take this human body and go through infinite agony, infinite suffering. But in the meantime, I have the infinite bliss of God that I lean towards. And then Baba also in an article says that because of that infinite bliss that I have, I can take the burden of this suffering. Otherwise, there is no way one can do that. He said even one in the healthiest human body will not be able to take thousands of the suffering that I go through. It's impossible. So this we can see how much he suffered. But also, the suffering of the Mandali. Look at Erich's last days. Look at Bauji's. He went through so many operations. Bauji's body was cut in pieces almost and sewn together until the end, really. And Alaba at the end, broke his hip, and they went to surgery, and the doctor came out and said, well, the surgery was successful, but the patient didn't survive. Look at Mero. Mero went through so much suffering. Mani, at the end, I had videos of him at the last stage of his life, of her life. She had a tube behind her back, head, draining, because fluid from her brain, yeah. But she was beaming of light. I mean, if one goes through the suffering, as Baba said, we read a few minutes ago, at the end, the light is there. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, you go through a dark tunnel, but at the end, the light is there. The light of God shines on us. And Baba gives, gives this suffering and burden to every one of us. I mean, we shouldn't really run away from it. But also, He gives us the capacity or the power to bear this suffering. Now, going back to Esfandiar, the last days of his life, my dad said Esfandiar was in so much pain that one night I woke up. This is my dad is telling me that one night I woke up and I saw Esfandiar under the bed, basically, because of suffering, falling off the bed and going under the bed and trying to push to the wall under the bed, basically, and moaning all night, and then pass away in a few days. But my dad said the last month of his life, he was just agonized, just pain. All month, a whole month of pain. And Shahryar Meherwanpur, which I mentioned earlier, he got diabetes at the end, and then they had to cut both of his legs. So, but even with that, I didn't see him then, but I saw him before that. It was just with Baba, There was nothing else. The suffering was there, but his love was there too. So through the love, they would suffer. Or through the suffering, they would love. Let's put it that way. Even Darwin Shaw, you can't go too far. I mean, Darwin Shaw, you look at, the last days of his life, they came and took him away. He was surrendered. I mean, he was surrendered to the family members who wanted to take him away, but in the meantime, it was all Baba. So, we got to be willing to His will and be resigned to His will, no matter what it is. And Baba says, rich or poor, beautiful and ugly, or wealthy or poor, it is due to our sanskaras, and if we are willing to His will, it will ease off. Everything will be easy. My two uncles also had the same thing. Even my dad, who met Baba in later years, had to go through that suffering himself too. My uncle, one of them actually suffered having cancer, and then he knew he's passing away. One of his sons who were very against Baba, very much against Baba, one of his sons. And no matter what you would tell him, he wouldn't care for Baba. But through studying or basically following the life of his dad, at the end, he realized who Meher Baba is. He said, Meher Baba must be somebody that my dad followed this path and told me what to do after such and such a thing. I don't want to go through the details, but his dad told him everything, that basically what he needs to do after he drops his body, but he didn't directly tell him that he's going to drop his body. And then the man just said, I was ignorant. I was ignorant and didn't know of Baba. Now I know who Meher Baba is. So he suffered, through dropping his body. And then the other uncle of mine in Premai Sham Khosrow, also broke his hip. The hip is a problem, by the way. When we get when we get older, you know, the hip might take us away. Sandor broke his hip too, you know. So yeah, so better be a little careful as much as you can. Grab a cane like Bob does, you know. But yeah, he broke his hip also at the end and didn't survive much after that. Rhoda Mystery, I remember her too. She had broken her hip. Our friend Adele. And then, who? Yeah, Danny Moore. I mean, he's still alive, right? Yeah.
Denny Moore. Oh.
Farshid, we're talking quite a bit about physical suffering, and I know at least one or two Mandali members suffered mentally as well. So that's it. Baba said something about that. That's mental is even worse.
Physically, mentally, and spiritually. Yeah, three different suffering. Spiritually is even worse. I mean, a six-plane saint has this suffering of infinite suffering, basically, that God has. Because he is seeing God with inner eye, but he cannot be united with God. So he goes through a spiritual suffering. The agony of separation, that's the worst suffering, that Baba says. But the end result is union with God. I mean, you want such a, infinity of yourself. You see the infinity, but you cannot become one with the infinity. So you see the infinity, you want to become one with the infinity. Hey, you got to suffer for it. So yes, mental suffering, physical suffering, and spiritually, all of these. Now, do you have an example of mental suffering?
I was thinking Norina, she suffered mentally at the end very much. I don't know of others, but I know for sure reading Bauji's ghazals that even though you wouldn't know it because he was such a happy teddy bear outwardly, but if you read his ghazals, you realize the suffering that went on underneath the hood. You couldn't see it, but it was there. And it came out in his
Sometimes
ghazals.
he would say that. He would say, you see me here smiling? I would joke with him sometimes. He would say, you see me here smiling? You don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, he would say, I'm torn up. I'm in pieces.
Now, that was spiritual suffering.
Yeah. So, David, thank you for giving me the opportunity of sharing, some of Baba's words and thoughts with everyone. And if anybody has any thoughts or questions, please bring it up.
I'm intrigued by what you said about one of the Brahmashram boys dropped the body because he got God. This must
No. Even a saint drops their body.
I know, but I mean, this might have been scratched from the books of Meher Baba. Was that censored?
Usually, when I talk about dropping body, is one who is not in Shariat, is in Tariqat.
Okay.
The person in Tariqat,
He didn't die. Maybe.
he
died.
like you can say died, but even if you remember the talk given by one of the Mandalis, Padri. Padri said, although he was low playing himself, but he said, I die, but Muhammad, he doesn't die, he drops his body. So, but Padri was downplaying. And maybe he was downplaying it because the Mandalis, we know that they, within a year, one lifetime, up to 3 lifetimes, they become one with God. But because they are the Mandali, Baba always take the Mandalis on undercover. They don't give them direct experiences of the path, like he did to the Brahmashram boys. Premashram boys, they experience the path vividly, but not the mandaris. None. Even Erich at the end, he said, Baba would ask me, do you love me? I said, I don't know. At the end, even at the end, he said, I didn't know anything about love until Baba dropped his body. And then I slowly, and then Baba even told Erich, that you will not experience the love that my lovers have when they come to take my darshan. It's not in your destiny. But after I drop my body, then you will come to realize my love through the love of those who come to here to visit. And that's how Erich was saying, yeah, that was the pure truth from the avatar. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you, Baba.
To close the meeting, we have Bombay Ravi again. And Cliff, the drummer.
Jai Meher Baba. Let us all say together, let us say with love, say the name of Lord Meher. The things that are going wrong in your life will be set right. How beautiful is Meher Baba's form. Sweeter than anything in the world is Meher Baba's name. Meher Baba is the one who loves Meher Baba from within us. Just try to take his name and see it for yourself. Alas, I wonder what the voice from the heavens says. Who knows it will embrace and who it does not. Meher Baba is my only companion in my sorrows and happiness. Keep singing Lord Meher Baba's name and everything will turn out to be all right. Meher Baba is the ocean of divine wisdom and love. Bring it to experience constantly in yourself. He is the one who you have been searching for every second of your existence. Keep chanting his name morning and evening. I cannot even begin to know how fortunate I am, and he who has brought me to my beloved. We who are his lovers have been given everything. सब मिल बोलो प्रेम से बोलो सब मिल बोलो प्रेम से बोलो बोलो मेहर प्रभु नाम 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 बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम 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 बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम बोलो सब मिल बोलो प्रेम से बोलो सब मिल बोलो प्रेम से बोलो बोलो मेहर प्रभु नाम 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 बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम 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 बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम कितना सुंदर रूप मेहर का कितना सुंदर रूप मेहर का सबसे मीठा नाम मेहर का सबसे मीठा करेगा, मेहर ही फिर मेहर करेगा। लेके देखो तो जरा नाम 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 नाम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम 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 काम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम। यूं तो वाणी क्या क्या कहती, यूं तो वाणी क्या क्या कहती, किसको भाती किसको न भाती, किसको भाती किसको न भाती। सुख में दुख में मेहर साथी, सुख में दुख में मेहर साथी। गाए जा मेहर प्रभु नाम 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 नाम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम 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 काम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम। मेहर प्रेम का ज्ञान का सागर, मेहर प्रेम का ज्ञान का सागर, अनुभव कर ले तू ही निरंतर, अनुभव कर ले तू ही निरंतर। जो तू पल पल खोजे अंदर, जो तू पल पल खोजे अंदर, मेहर जपते जा सुबह शाम 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 शाम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम 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 काम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम। नहीं जानू क्या भाग में पाया, नहीं जानू क्या भाग में पाया, जिसने मुझको पी से मिलाया, जिसने मुझको पी से मिलाया। हम प्रेमी ने सब कुछ पाया, हम प्रेमी ने सब कुछ पाया। अब तो बरसाओ मेहर नाम 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 नाम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम 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 काम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम। बोलो सब मिल बोलो, प्रेम से बोलो, सब मिल बोलो, प्रेम से बोलो। बोलो मेहर प्रभु नाम 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 नाम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम 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 काम, बिगड़े बनेंगे सारे काम। जय मेहर बाबा, अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय।